From Luna for Good, I'm Danny Green. This is Crypto Changemakers, a podcast where we hear from social entrepreneurs, creators, and artists who are using blockchain technology and NFTs to do good in the world. I'll try my best to not use any jargon because I really want to tell this story, that crypto is unlocking new possibilities in philanthropy, equity and diversity, and financial inclusion. Though NFTs and cryptocurrencies can be bought and sold, this show is not financial advice. Today we are learning about how nonprofit organizations can accept cryptocurrency donations. Pietro Moran is the partnerships manager at The Giving Block. Over the last 3 years, The Giving Block has helped nonprofits raise millions of dollars from Bitcoin, Ether, and other cryptocurrencies. They offer a simple donation widget that can be added to the nonprofit's website and can auto-convert the crypto to dollars so that the nonprofit receives the donation as a wire into their bank account and never has to deal with the cryptocurrency. What I found most impressive from this conversation is that 80% of the donations actually come through the Giving Block's website, meaning that these donations are coming from new donors. Pietro, I'm so excited to have you here today on the podcast because the Giving Block to me is kind of one of the most foundational companies that exist in this space to help raise money for charities, to help do good in the space. And so I'm really excited to tell this story today and for you to tell us a little bit about how the Giving Block got created and kind of what it does. So what is the Giving Block? Why don't you start there?
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me and for everyone tuning in. I really appreciate the time. It's a really good question, right? Because the Giving Block is a few things all rolled into one. The company was started in 2018, and I have to give credit to Alex Wilson, Pat Duffy, our founders. I sit on the partnership side of the business, so that's how we met, actually, ironically, on Twitter. But the Giving Block is, at a high level, a service provider that enables nonprofits to accept donations natively in crypto. And I think that's a really important thing to distinguish from the traditional modalities in which companies and nonprofits are donating these days. We allow for the donation experience to be crypto native for the folks that are donating. And then we abstract away a lot of the complexity that might get people a little bit hesitant to accept crypto on the nonprofit side. So happy to dive in and kind of decompose what we solve for, because it's a few different things. But at a high level, we're working with about 1,300 nonprofits right now. And excited to be able to tell you that in 2021, we helped raise roughly $70 million for nonprofits, which was for us a huge win because it did two things. It thankfully proved the proof of concept for us, right? We knew that we were doing something that people cared about. And then we also were very excited to see that there was an appetite to donate in this medium from the crypto audience generally.
That's incredible. So why is it important for a nonprofit to accept crypto donations?
That's a phenomenal question. And that's something that we do a lot of education on our sales team, on our client success team. I think it boils down to a few things. The traditional way that nonprofits are accepting donations may be ACH, credit card, checks by mail. My grandma's, sending in a check and you getting her tote bag, right? We're all familiar with that donation experience. But I think as nonprofits are looking for the next, say, 20, 30, 50 years, and looking at the next demographic of donors, they're thinking to themselves, we have pretty solidly entrenched ourselves in the traditional payment rails, but there's this millennial kind of donor base that hasn't really been tapped into. So one of the things that we've been, luckily successful at activating is this audience of, crypto native, millennial, Gen Z audience, members who are, more than anything, allocating an increased, allocation of their portfolio to digital assets, right? So what it really is, it's not competing against themselves in the sense that, they might take credit cards or ACH or any of these other things. It's opening up an entirely new funnel for them to access donations. And one of the cool things was we did a bit of the back testing and just looking at the data from our side. In 2021, on average, our nonprofits were raising, around $100,000 of new donation flow per nonprofit, which was, something that it's just money that they weren't accessing previously. So not only is it great for, the social impact that they're doing and the causes they support, but it's also just, making sure that you're, addressing the entire potential donor demographic or donor base that you can access. I'm more likely to donate, just personally with some Bitcoin or Ethereum than I am to, go and get my credit card, right? Because I have my wallet already, and I already have my MetaMask already on my computer. So it's easy for them, and it's a huge value add for the donor base that doesn't want to change the type of asset that they're donating. Like, I don't want to liquidate my crypto for fiat and then send a credit card payment or something like that. And then we can also dive into why it's a tax advantage way to donate as well, which is a whole other wrapper. But I'll take a pause there because I know there's a lot of things.
Yeah, no, I want to come back to taxes for sure, because I think that that's really interesting. But right now, in just kind of understanding like who the donor is, I think that this is really fascinating, right? So many, with so many nonprofits, it's so hard sometimes to expand your donor base, right? Like, you have your donors and you're kind of going back to them again and again, and there's a certain limit that they're kind of able or willing to donate. And
Right.
and so what I hear you saying is that in accepting cryptocurrencies, you're actually increasing the number of donors. You're bringing new donors to the table that weren't already involved or connected to the nonprofit.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's increasing the scope of your reach and the size of your audience. The other thing that I would stress a lot, which is very helpful, because it generates a lot of awareness, is that unlike maybe your more traditional donor base that might skew a little bit older, the folks that are donating through our platform on average, right, because it's a very diverse pool of people, they tend to be, a lot more tech savvy, let's just say, and social media minded. So you'll see a lot of this buzz when we run our campaigns, right? People will be tweeting, retweeting, sharing it on the various platforms that they engage on. That's huge for the nonprofits because it spreads their message, even though it's a great way for folks that are donating to say, here is the validation of me doing some sort of social good, and you can actually check it on chain. You know what I mean? Like, I can provably say, I've made a commitment to some organization that's doing good in the world. Here's my retweet, but also what comes with that is a lot of awareness for, say, the nonprofit they donated to as well. And, since it's such a novelty to be accepting crypto donations, people tend to really grab onto these headlines because people don't even know this stuff exists yet. And so it's really, really exciting to see that kind of diaspora of information get out into the world.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like in most online donations, right, you always have that button as like tweet your donation or like post your donation to Facebook, right? Like, and right. I've done that a number of times on my traditional donations. The Facebook gets absolutely zero engagement, right? Like, no one cares. Maybe now the true. Facebook like donation platform that they have, but this is interesting. You're saying that there's because people are so native to being on Twitter and in how that they communicate about their cryptocurrency, their NFT purchases, this is kind of just part of it, right? Like, I tweet out every time I buy an NFT that I want people to know like what I bought. So I want to connect with other people who are in that community. I want to showcase what I've purchased. It's the same idea with making a donation, right? Like, it's what the activities that I already am doing on Twitter. It now kind of just, we're bringing giving into the mix to kind of like purchasing, buying, all of that.
Yeah, I think it speaks to some of like the macro trends we just see in society at large, which is kind of like the gamification and financialization of everything. What we've done is create this like novel new experience that is a true value add, right, to the donor and to the nonprofit. But at the same time, it's like really fun. And because it's novel, it's new. It's interacting with things like NFTs. We work with a lot of NFT projects who donate. Then people really feel empowered to share the message, and it doesn't really, come across as this flat, like self-congratulatory thing. It's like, hey, I want to reach out to my network and pull you guys in to do some more good, as opposed to, hey, check out, I donated $100, right? That's, a little less exciting.
Are there any gamification elements in what the Giving Block does? Like, how do you gamify giving?
I mean, that's a tough question, right? I think it's a really good one. To the extent that we've, made it semi-competitive, well, not competitive, but you know what I mean? To the extent that we try to highlight the good that other people are doing and make it a fun experience, we have a donation leaderboard for NFT projects. So we had a campaign in the tail end of last year called NF Tuesday. And it was a big call to action for the NFT community to donate. We had a bunch of artists donate their artwork and we auctioned it off. And then a lot of the projects themselves were highlighted in our leaderboard. And so I actually have it over here to the left of me. And, it becomes fun, right? When you see the other people in the space creating art, also giving back, and you're like, maybe we can do a little bit more here, or maybe we can like call our community to do a little bit more. That's kind of the stuff that we were trying to highlight, because we don't want it to feel like an impetus or like a must give like message. It's not kind of berating you or like, coming in with a really hard ask. It's how can we make this fun for everyone and make them comfortable with participating in a way that's like good for their pocket, the pocketbook or checkbook, but in a way that also maximizes their impact and like the feeling of good that they get from that. Because we want you to leave as a donor with an experience that not only was this fun and I got across like, my intention of doing social good, but I also want to call to action other people so that this sort of flywheel keeps spinning, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And talking about kind of the motivation for someone to give in this way. So we talked about kind of, okay, there's a little bit of a competitive element, right? There's a little bit of a flex, right? Like I'm showcasing where I'm giving. It kind of becomes part of the culture of NFTs. All right, you mentioned taxes. I feel like this is an important piece of the puzzle as well. So talk to me about kind of why is there a tax advantage to donating in crypto?
Yeah, I have to give a brief shout out to Michael Early, who's one of the earliest employees here at the Giving Block. He came up with the term degenerosity, which is really...
I love that. That's fantastic. I've not heard that before. I love it.
I think it's so emblematic of our industry, right? Because people are, always saying that they're aping into this and that, or doing, all sorts of like degenerate things in crypto, whether it's taking more risk than they should be or whatever. We wanted to kind of take that ethos.
Just to give people an understanding, like, the word of like the degenerate is something that's kind of the NFT community and the crypto community has adopted, right? Like they've adopted the idea of being a degenerate, and that's even been shortened to like a degen, right?
Yes,
so like
exactly.
People call themselves degens or people are degens. So this idea of like degenerosity kind of plays off that concept.
Yeah, I think it's a badge of honor too, right? Because for many who've been around the space for a long time, right, crypto was derided for the longest time. It was not seen as a legitimate form of financial interaction or transaction, right? And I think that people just took that and said, "Hey, no, it's not a slur. It's not a bad thing. It's actually kind of who we are, right? We're just further out on the risk curve." Back to taxes, though, because you're absolutely right. It makes a huge difference. When you donate your crypto, right, since it's designated as property by the IRS, you do actually get a fair value deduction for that donation. So what ends up happening is you're roughly anywhere from 20 to 30% more efficient with your dollars when you're donating in crypto. So you can think through the example of you as a donor, right, come with let's say you have some Ethereum that was appreciated, right? And it's your most valuable or appreciated asset on your books. You can either sell that for cash and donate the cash, but you'll pay the capital gains taxes on that. Or you can say, I'll donate a portion of this, take the deduction off my income, which is advantageous to you. And then the nonprofit recipient is actually not paying capital gains on that as well, because it's a donation of property. So they end up with something that the value is basically we're arbitraging away the money that you would be otherwise sending to the IRS in taxes and just passing it through to the nonprofit. So everybody really wins at the end of the day. You get the deduction on your taxes, which you were going to have to pay anyway, right? Then the nonprofit says, oh, here's 20% more money than we would have gotten if you'd paid your taxes and then donated cash. So in a way, it's kind of like a positive sum game, right? We don't have to like make your tax bill kind of a disadvantage for the nonprofit. Everybody ends up with more at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's similar to stock donations, right?
Great
Very, very
analogy.
similar,
Mhm.
right? A lot of nonprofits, they'll receive stock donations. And the reason that someone may donate stock instead of just cash is because that stock has appreciated in value and I can
Mhm.
donate it at the new valuation. I don't have to pay the capital gains and I get the full deduction at the
Mhm.
valuation that it currently stands. And essentially, it's the same for crypto. And because we've seen so much appreciation in cryptocurrencies and most recently in 2021 in NFTs, there's been a lot of gain. So with the assumption that people are actually reporting this gain and telling the
Yeah.
IRS that
Yeah.
they are have made this additional money, right now they can donate the appreciated cryptocurrencies, and and that full amount will go to the nonprofit organization, and that
Mhm.
represents a deduction. And is there a limit? Do you know if there's a limit? I mean, maybe I'll do a whole episode on taxes, but like, is there a limit on kind of what the tax deduction that I can take for charitable giving in crypto?
Yeah, that's a great question. I guess I'm compelled here just to say that none of this is really financial advice, right? And I would suggest that
Important.
everybody who's in the realm of considering a donation, especially one of large size, consult, a tax professional and their trusted financial advisor. Um, that being said, it kind of depends, right? Because we can get creative with the ways in which we allow our donors to donate. You can donate through our widget and like the donate crypto buttons that we have living all over the internet. And that's one way to do it sort of from a retail perspective. As we consider larger volume donations, there may be more advantageous like entities and vehicles by which you do that. And that could look like a donor advised fund. We have great partners who can spin up donor advised funds for our, say larger ticket donors, such that they can get that large tax deduction without having to make the disbursements of that money all at one time. That's sometimes very advantageous. Say you're donating $10 million. You maybe want $1 million a year to go out, but you want the full value of that deduction today, right? That's important. The same thing goes for like charitable remainder trusts. We work with folks, at the sort of high net worth level to optimize for those solutions. And we actually have a whole entire branch of the company that's called our private client services kind of desk. That is that white glove service to kind of walk you through and put you in touch with the right specialists for that. So yes, it's definitely doable. We facilitated it in the past and we're very grateful for those donors. But we almost take that as a different experience from the traditional, like find a donate crypto button on your favorite nonprofit's website and, donate half an ETH or something. So, all donations are welcome. We don't want to like preclude or exclude any potential donation. So we're just optimizing and finding solutions for all types of donors.
That's fantastic. Let's talk about it a little bit more from the nonprofit side.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm a nonprofit organization, right? I'm interested in accepting crypto. Kind of walk me through the process.
Yeah, so it's quite simple, and we take the approach of education first and then action, which I think is important because there's a lot of things when it comes to crypto that nonprofits may or may not be familiar with, right? And that's anything from how do I send a crypto transaction to how do I market this stuff, right? We help folks across the spectrum, not spelling Bitcoin as two words in their tweets when they're tweeting about this stuff. And then also teaching them that crypto does not have to be difficult. And you don't have to be super technical to accept a crypto donation. So you're a nonprofit, you reach out to us. We'll have an in-person demonstration on Zoom where we show you just the ease and facility of using the widget. Then we would explain really what the value add is, meaning the things we talked about before, why you want to access this donor demographic, why it makes sense to be kind of skating to where the puck is going in terms of just portfolio allocation of the next generation of donors. Then what we would do is essentially lay out for you what that roadmap looks like. Enabling you to accept crypto donations, again, does not need or require you to be super technical. You can just opt in on our platform to receive a wire, at the end of the day, with the assets being liquidated so that you can fund your organization, right? You don't have to go to an exchange or an OTC desk and like sell the Ethereum or Bitcoin yourself. We, like I said, abstract all that away. So once you do that, you'd sign up with us. Depending on the level of integration you want, we have different packages and options, right? So we may work with a local food bank that maybe just wants to receive donations through the widget and like not go above and beyond because it might be too much for their capacity at this time. Or you might have a large organization. We work with folks like Save the Children, St. Jude's, the American Cancer Society that might want a more bespoke product. We can craft and curate those campaigns and that kind of solution for them. So really it's, very simply have the conversation with us. Let us teach you why this is really easy. Then it's, make the decision whether you're ready for this or not. And then once you're activated, take part in our marketing campaigns, reach out to your audience, spread the word. And the product is really like self-sufficient, right? There's really not a lot of input that's necessary from the nonprofit. And for anyone listening who's maybe a little more crypto native, our solution is non-custodial. So we're not accessing any of those donations and holding them for the nonprofit. It's just going to our partner exchange so that those assets can get liquidated. But we don't have to get in, too technical just yet if you don't want to.
Well, I think I work with a specific nonprofit organization, and I suggested that they, reach out and start accepting crypto. And their key fear was, well, we don't want to hold crypto, right? We don't want to like that's going to be complicated for our books. There's huge volatility in cryptocurrencies. Are you saying that a nonprofit actually never has to hold crypto at all?
Exactly right. And I think this is a very salient point because we don't want to, by default, make a nonprofit do something they're not comfortable with. So the answer is they have the option, which is they can either liquidate it for cash so that they don't have, again, that headache of accounting, et cetera. But they also do have the option to hold crypto on their balance sheet, in their treasury. So it breaks down about 95% of the nonprofits are, converting to fiat for that operational income, sustaining themselves, putting that money to work. But then some who on the margin are seeing, are saying to themselves, maybe I don't need this Bitcoin today. Since it was a donation in the spirit of what the donor wanted, maybe I'll hold on to this for a month, a year, who knows? And some have done that to great effect and great success. But again, it's whatever they're comfortable with. So we don't impose that on anyone. The second that it's donated, it can get converted to cash so that, again, you're getting a wire the same way that you would receive any other regular donation. So the donation experience is no different. You don't even need to know that really crypto's in the background, but you know that you're accessing this money from an entirely new audience. And that's the exciting part. It's like, wow, now I'm expanding my business. Like there's mutual revenue expansion in this as opposed to, oh, I'm just taking some donors from here and putting them here.
Right. You're telling me that's new donors that I don't actually have to hold crypto. The money just comes into my account and it represents a completely new revenue source. And this is why I've been trying to tell everybody that I know about the Giving Block.
But we're shouting it from the ramparts, but people like you are doing God's work as well. So thank you.
Do I know who my donor is? Like, do you provide me with a list of who my donors are? Can I kind of be in touch with them, reach back out to them, try to get them to increase their gift for next year, right? That's the typical process for a nonprofit, right? Grow your donor base, keep in touch with them. This is crypto. Like, do I know who they are?
It's a great question, right? Because one of the core tenets of crypto is at least the ability to be pseudonymous, right? That's been around ever since Bitcoin was created. And I guess the answer is it depends. Some people make public donations, and this is tied into our gift receipting as well. When you make a donation through the Giving Block, you can opt in to receiving a tax receipt automatically to your email, such that you can actually use it when you go to do your taxes, come tax season. But then you can also opt into being anonymous. Anonymous donations are a real thing, and we want to protect the identities of donors who may, have done really well in crypto, but don't want to telegraph that it's them making the donation. They want the social good to speak for itself. So it's really an opt-in kind of product. With that being said, though, our exchange provider or partner that we work with ensures that like the provenance of all those assets is solid, meaning it comes from a good place. And if there are any flags, they're brought up, but that has really never really been a concern, thankfully, for us.
So if I'm a donor, I want the tax receipt, I put in my email address, is the nonprofit definitely going to get that email address because I've included that information in my donation?
So yeah, that depends really. And that's something I would actually, say stay tuned on, because it's something that we're tinkering with. Like, we don't want to be a provider of personal information for reasons of security, privacy, et cetera. But yeah, I would say that depending on what kind of relationship you want with the nonprofit, I would just say reach out to us at the Giving Block, and we're happy to make introductions. And vice versa, if you're a nonprofit that really wants to say thank you, we can potentially work on that for you. But again, we try to tread lightly when it comes to topics of people's security and privacy, because you hear about people getting doxxed, getting et cetera in crypto. So we try to put the user's privacy first.
And doxed is a common word that just means kind of the identity revealed in crypto.
Yes.
A lot of people
you have to excuse my overuse of like the traditional parlance, because I'm so like inundated with it every day that I forget sometimes to pull my head out of the rabbit hole.
We're here to help educate people, right? So they understand that when we say fiat, we mean like normal dollars that you use in your day-to-day currency versus the cryptocurrency that Pietro and I are playing with all day, every day.
Exactly.
So in general, what I hear you saying, right, is I'm the nonprofit, I'm receiving donations, and like that doesn't necessarily even represent a two-way relationship. It's kind of like the donations are coming in. I don't necessarily know who these donations are coming from. You're kind of telling me they're millennials and Gen Zers who've made a lot of money in crypto appreciation, and God bless them, they're giving it to me as a nonprofit. I mean, it sounds pretty easy. I guess one question around that is, what do you think is the responsibility of a nonprofit to market to this community, right? That they are accepting donations, that you should donate to me. Is it just like sign up with the Giving Block and then the Giving Block takes care of it for me? Or what's my role as a nonprofit in this?
Yeah, this is a great question, because I think it's really like a two-sided marketplace to the extent that we do a lot of campaigning ourselves and highlight all of the nonprofit partners that we work with. So whether that's a highlighting on our Twitter, where we're shouting out any particular nonprofit on any particular day, like recent signups always tend to get a highlight. But then we try to co-market things as much as possible, because we want to leverage the audiences of both sides. Like, the Giving Block is responsible for probably 80% of the nonprofit donation volume, like coming through our site. So we're like the aggregator, the index of nonprofits that accept crypto, which I think is important, right? Because then we become like, to use the economic term, like a Schelling point, right? People just know to go to this one place. It's like when you ask a random person where they would meet you in New York City, they might say Grand Central Station, right? Or Times Square, because it's like the first thing that comes to mind. We want to have the same thing happen when you ask me, where do I go donate to charity? Obviously, I'm biased. I'd tell you the Giving Block. But you want it to be someone on the street to think, oh, the Giving Block, right? Because they just work with a lot of the nonprofits that I've heard of. So we do a lot of marketing on our side of it. And we, bring in a lot of the nonprofits as well, such that like you'll see for NF Tuesday, right? We had a lot of successful like activations on the nonprofit side. Meals on Wheels was a phenomenal one, because they had a local branch. I think it was out in South Dakota, but I'll have to check myself on that one, where they adopted like the moniker of the Meals on Wheels grandma, and we're like thanking all the crypto donors as like some fictitious character. But it was hilarious to see them adopt this, where they typically didn't have like a huge Twitter presence, but they kind of leaned into this because they saw how activated our audience can be. Like, it's very different, right? Because my parents, my grandparents, they're not on Twitter talking about donations, right? They might just get the thing in the mail, the flyer, mail the check in, forget about it. we have a very interactive experience where the marketing teams, the social media managers on the nonprofit side are now seeing, oh, wow, we're getting a lot of impressions from these tweets because, you and I are talking about it on Twitter. People who donate are sharing their receipts if they're comfortable. Like, it's a whole experience in a way that hasn't really been done before. So they're really active. Like, sometimes they're starting their Twitter account for the first time because of us. We're saying, hey, we have a lot of people. We have 10,000 followers on Twitter. It's not the biggest account, but it's a great, start for folks that maybe don't even have a social media presence. And so we're helping to educate them on that. And it's been pretty successful so far.
So I think this is an important point that the crypto community, the NFT community, the primary communication channel is Twitter, right? But you're saying, but you're saying that even if you're a nonprofit, you're interested in accepting cryptocurrencies, the fact that you might not have an active, robust Twitter account shouldn't deter you from signing up.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely right. We've had folks who are champions of ours from nonprofits who they never had a Twitter account before, and then they spin one up, and then they see all the love and the interactions they're getting, and they come back to us and say, hey, thank you for, just putting me onto this. This is something I didn't even know was a thing, because maybe in their corner of the nonprofit world, like, that isn't the priority. And we're not saying that you need to change how you do donations, right? We're just saying that if you want to access this audience, it's here and their arms are open and willing to embrace you as a nonprofit. So we encourage you to at least experiment with it and check it out.
I think it's absolutely incredible and astounding, actually, when you think about $70 million of donations, right, in 2021 through the Giving Block. 80% of these donations are coming through your website, the Giving Block, right, as opposed to kind of from existing donors of a nonprofit. And you only have
just the breakdown is really like every nonprofit that onboards with us will get like a donate crypto button for their website. So they'll have a widget where you or I can go to, pick your favorite charity's website and see on the donation section, you're going to have ACH, credit card. Oh, what's this crypto thing? That's responsible for about 20% of the flow. Our website's responsible for about 80% of it. So it's a bit of a mix and match. We want our, our tooling to live all over the internet. But then again, when you're thinking about where to donate, you want the full menu. So sometimes you just come to our website.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's incredible though. So it's not people going to the charity website to donate. They're actually going to the Giving Block to donate. And yet you only have like almost 12,000 Twitter followers. It's incredible the volume that you're doing, at that. It's just, it's really, really impressive.
Well, thank you. I mean, if I can say something for your audience too, that I hope is relevant, it would just be like, we have what I think is like one of the most dynamic and active audiences on Twitter. And the reason is, we're not really trying to like shill you or sell you anything, right? We're just trying to encourage you to do good in a way that's potentially advantageous for you from a tax standpoint. I think that's a really wholesome way to involve new people who might have some trepidation about like dipping their toes into crypto, right? Like, we look at it as like ameliorating the entire industry's image, because for many folks, this might be the first time you've heard of crypto was because you heard about a $3.5 million Ethereum donation from one of the Art Blocks artists, for example. Like, what better way to like come in with a good impression of something when you hear like one of your favorite, NFT influencers or artists was, donating to a cause that you cared about. So I think that's why we punch above our weight. But, we'll see. Maybe we just, the growth just catches up to us, hopefully, this year.
No, I mean, I really think that you guys are building a platform that has such huge potential to be just a massive source of donations for nonprofit organizations, especially as cryptocurrency adoption goes up. More people are using it in a variety of different ways. More people are buying NFTs. I was just looking at a stat of how, it went from $100 million of NFT purchases in 2020 to $23 billion of NFT purchases in 2021, right? Well, we're talking about this growth in over 1 year, giving a seamless ability for these people who are making money in this cryptocurrency space to donate to the causes that they care about and the charities that they already have connections to is vital. And there's no one who's doing it better than the Giving Block, in my opinion. And so,
if I could share a stat with you too, because I think this is something that we saw as far as like trends within the giving community. Like 2019, 2020, we were very used to being a Bitcoin denominated organization. That was just like the majority of the donation volume. The same way that you say, there was, say, small volume in NFTs just a year ago. Last year, not only was Ethereum the most donated asset, but that went hand in hand with a trend that came out of the NFT movement, which is, I think it was anywhere between $15 and $20 million. And we're still tallying kind of the breakdown as we, release our annual report for last year's performance. $15 to $20 million of donations came from the NFT sort of sector alone, which I think is incredible when you talk about, punching above your weight. Like, this is something that didn't really exist a couple of years ago, or at least not to the scale that we think it might. So that's been one of the things that, was a pleasant surprise. Like, we weren't just banking on the same kinds of donors or types of donations. So I think it's a testament to like the commingling of social good and art, which I think has been something we've seen historically in the traditional art space. It's just bleeding into crypto. And, we were lucky to have caught the wave on that.
Yeah, no, so important. And truthfully, that's part of my story as well, right? Like, I had bought some cryptocurrency in 2017 when, we saw the big run for Bitcoin, but didn't really pay close attention to it. And then in 2021 is when I started paying attention to NFTs, and then became totally obsessed with NFTs and totally changed my career to focus on NFTs. And And obviously to connect with social good as well, right? To find out how this new technology, right, is playing a part in social good. So, there are about 700 other questions I'd love to discuss with you. I'd like to talk about some of the recent initiatives you guys have done, but we'll have to have you back another time because I feel like this is a really great overview about what the Giving Block is, and really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, likewise, Danny. Thank you so much, and to your audience for having me here. Would be happy to give you guys an update anytime you want, and I'll see you in the Twitter Spaces in the meantime.
How can people follow you?
So I'm at Pietro Moran on Twitter, but more importantly, at thegivingblock.com. That's all our socials. I think we're Twitter, Instagram, Discord. You can join us. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me personally. We're excited for 2022. We're re-energized and want to say thank you to all of our donors in the past, and I guess a thank you for everyone who's going to take a look at us here in the future.
Thank you, Pietro.
Awesome. Thanks.
For more on The Giving Block, go to thegivingblock.com or follow them on Twitter at The Giving Block. And please follow me on Twitter at Danny Green, with an E at the end. And shoot me a DM if you're a changemaker or you know a changemaker who wants to be on the show. Thanks so much for listening. See you next time.